Welcome to my first tutorial in statistical thinking titled Statistical Thinking, Why is it Important? My name is Anthony Donoghue. I'm a faculty member with the Department of Statistics at Columbia University, where I've been teaching statistics and statistical thinking for the last 11 years. The tutorials I'm presenting to you are based on the second edition of my book titled Statistical Thinking Through Media Examples. The book grew out of my experiences teaching statistical thinking to students from non-mathematical disciplines. It was written as a concise narrative where the statistical concepts are explained with minimal mathematical calculations through engaging and up-to-date media examples. I found this approach to be a very successful way of introducing statistical concepts to a broader audience. In this first tutorial, we'll begin with a classic example where, aided by the media, an unethical researcher cast doubt on what was considered an accepted truth, the safety of vaccines. This case, which helped give rise to the anti-vaccine movement, shows that a basic level of statistical thinking skills could have helped members of the media avoid disseminating information that was not only incorrect, but actually harmful to the public. With the advent of the coronavirus pandemic, it has become crystal clear the important role of vaccines for maintaining public health. According to the journalist James Hamblin, writing for The Atlantic, the goal in journalism is to be the best at identifying and conveying truth. This is a worthy goal that every journalist should aspire to. Journalists are on the front lines when it comes to questioning authority figures like politicians. We need our journalists to have the integrity and the critical thinking skills to ask the tough questions these type of individuals might not want to answer. The problem is that journalists are in the business of selling news, and sensational stories that may not be based in truth or good science sell news. We need to be able to separate good information from bad by thinking critically and statistically about the information and data we consume every day. The truth is something we pursue. By developing our critical and statistical thinking skills, we can learn to reason with and minimize the uncertainty with regard to what the truth may be. Through this process of reasoning with uncertainty in a complex and chaotic world, we can find answers to our questions that we can be highly confident are close enough to the truth to make good decisions. Ultimately, we are learning how to reason with uncertainty using data and statistical thinking.
We will begin this process by looking at a classic case of where the media failed to investigate the validity of a piece of research before reporting on it. In 1998, Andrew Wakefield, a well-respected doctor at the time, presented the results of research in The Lancet, one of the world's leading peer-reviewed medical journals, suggesting a link between the measles, mumps and rubella vaccine, known as MMR, and autism. Initially, the results of the study did not become big news until Andrew Wakefield held a press conference discussing his findings. In the year 2000, ABC did a report on Wakefield's findings. On the surface, the report seems fair and balanced, interviewing experts on both sides of the debate. However, a simple review by the reporter of the actual journal article where Wakefield presented his findings would have ended the debate at that time. The findings were based on only 12 children who received the MMR vaccine. This is considered a very small sample size. Also, as we will discuss, the sample of 12 children were far from representative of the population of children that received the MMR vaccine. Wakefield found that 9 of the children went on to develop autism soon after receiving the vaccination. Those conclusions were speculative and based on only 12 children. This did not stop the media from widely reporting that Wakefield had found a causal link between the vaccine and autism. It was a sensational story, so the media ran with it. However, as we will see, making a story out of an insignificant piece of research with little basis in good science can have its consequences. The advent of vaccines, more than any other development in medicine, have made the world a safer and less uncertain place for human beings to live together. However, their success in keeping viruses at bay depends on our unified trust in their effectiveness. As is the case with trying to eliminate COVID-19, it depends on all of us working together for the common good. This is a good opportunity to introduce some basic but important statistical concepts. The population is defined as a large group of individuals under study. In any study, it is important to first define what the target population of interest is. In the Wakefield study, the target population was all MMR vaccinated children in the UK. The sample is a subgroup of the target population actually studied that should be representative of the population. In the Wakefield study, the sample was the 12 MMR vaccinated children selected from the population. A population parameter is an unknown statistical measure that describes a particular characteristic of a population of interest. In the Wakefield study, the researchers were interested in the percentage of MMR vaccinated children who went on to develop autism. A sample statistic is an estimate of the unknown population characteristic. In the Wakefield study, 9 out of the 12 MMR vaccinated children in the sample, or 75% of them, went on to develop autism. The sample statistic was 75%. Let's stop and think about this statistic for a moment. Wakefield found that 75%, or 9 of the 12 MMR vaccinated children he sampled, went on to develop autism. If this percentage was anywhere close to the true percentage in the population of MMR vaccinated children that went on to develop autism, then there would have been a noticeable increase in the instances of autism after the vaccine was introduced in 1988. To summarize, a journalist with very basic statistical thinking skills would have A. rejected the study because of the small sample size, and B. realized the sample statistic could have not been anywhere close to the truth in the population. The 12 children that Wakefield selected for his study were far from representative of the children who received the MMR vaccine. A number of years after Wakefield's study was conducted, the journalist Brian Deer, through his excellent and hard work of pursuing the truth in this case, quote, discovered that nearly all the children aged between 2.5 and 9.5 had been pre-selected through the MMR campaign groups, and that at the time of their admission, most of their parents were clients and contacts of the lawyer Barr, end quote. Brian Deer found that the lawyer Richard Barr hired Wakefield 2 years before the research was published to attack the MMR vaccine. This is an example of good journalism, doing the hard work of pursuing the truth and not just looking for a sensational story without regard for the consequences. When deciding which journalist you should trust, look and listen for a journalist who is not afraid to ask the tough questions, an individual who resonates with honesty, integrity, and good character. Look at multiple and contrasting news sources related to some major news stories so you can separate fact-based reporting from opinion-based reporting. There are a lot of individuals in the media with little to no integrity who relish the power they have over a passive, non-thinking populace. Learn to think for yourself and be skeptical of every point of view. Eventually, you will learn what journalists to trust, and the charlatan's power will diminish. The consequences of the media's poor reporting of Andrew Wakefield's research reached a pinnacle in 2019, with 1,282 cases of measles reported in the US. This is by far the worst year for measles cases since the disease was declared eradicated in 2000, the same year that the media first reported on the story. A large percentage of these cases were the result of individuals in the anti-vaccine movement refusing to vaccinate their children, resulting in the spread of the virus to others. In 2019, the Washington Post reported that in the small country of Samoa, with a population of around 195,000 people, there were 68 deaths from measles, most of them children. This is a very large number as a percentage of the entire population. Again, ignorance and misinformation spread so rapidly through our new forms of media has dire consequences for the most innocent among us. In my book and tutorials, we will go beyond the news headlines to the source of the research, the journal article, to question the quality of the research for ourselves. We will question the quality of the research related to, for example, the relationship between alcohol consumption and cardiovascular health, American football and brain injury, the latest fad diet and weight loss. We will question the quality of polls and surveys related to Brexit and another titled Political Polarisation and Media Habits, an interesting piece of research showing how our new ways of consuming news and media are dividing us and putting us into boxes. Through this process of questioning studies, we will learn a lot about how research is conducted and the importance of questioning the quality of data used in all types of research. You will learn how to understand and reason with variation, a concept that is at the foundation of statistical thinking. Through your understanding of variation in measurements and in-sample statistics, you will learn how to reason with the uncertainty regarding what the truth may or may not be in order to make good decisions. We will build on the foundations of statistical thinking by introducing linear regression, a very important and much used statistical technique. We will discuss research looking at the relationship between public mass shootings and firearm availability, among others. In my last tutorial and chapter, titled Integrity in Research, we will use the statistical thinking skills we have developed to question the quality of statistical analysis portion of the controversial research. We will question the results of research related to the existence of extrasensory perception that led to the replication crisis in the field of psychology, and another related to what has become known as power posing. We will look at the case of Vioxx, a painkiller that resulted in the unnecessary deaths of approximately 60,000 people in the US. We will see that the lack of integrity of individuals working for and on behalf of the pharmaceutical company that made the drug led to these unnecessary deaths. Again, we will see that journalists with the basic level of statistical thinking skills might have raised public awareness that may have helped get the drug off the market sooner. Finally, we will discuss the opioid crisis, where again, business decisions made to maximize the bottom line has led to hundreds of thousands of unnecessary deaths. Again, we will question the lack of integrity of individuals involved ensuring that a drug got to market that they knew would kill people. The need to question the world around us and to think for ourselves has never been more necessary. As Americans, we have the fundamental right to question our authority figures in order to get at the truth. It is essential for maintaining a healthy democracy. However, we need critical and statistical thinking skills to be able to ask the right questions in order to see through the noise and get at the truth. The absolute truth can never be pinned down, making our quest all the more challenging. However, we can learn how to reason with and minimize our uncertainty regarding what the truth may be by developing our critical and statistical thinking skills. The pursuit of truth is a challenge, but a very rewarding one. In our next tutorial, we'll begin by asking, what is data and what is statistical thinking?